Okay, I'd like to invite up on the stage Niels. Where's Niels? There he is, over here. Fantastic. All the way from South Africa. And Niels from Ringier is going to talk about our journey to the AI-powered marketplace.
Thank you, Simon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think a couple of people crawled in. Thank you for joining. Thank you for coming. When I presented in Miami, for some reason, my shirt trended on LinkedIn. Because it had cats on it, and everybody likes cats, that's why I decided to choose my very best t-shirt today. Let me guys tell you first a little about my employer, Ringier. Ringier is a Swiss-based company around about 190 years old. That doesn't happen often in the digital space. It's predominantly family-owned. We've got around about 140 businesses in 20 countries, and we made $1 billion revenue in 2022. 23, the numbers are going to be released soon. 135 million EBITDA, and as you guys can see, around about 80% of that EBITDA comes from our digital activities. We've got quite many marketplaces. That's our marketplaces in Switzerland. SMG is big. JobCloud is really big. I'm sure you know a couple of them. But then if you look at our other locations, I know they are small, but maybe you're familiar with some of the brands. Profession in Hungary, for example, Immobiliare in Romania, and so forth. So yeah, it's a couple of businesses and marketplaces we are operating. Who am I? I'm the managing director for Ringier South Africa. Yes, that is beautiful Cape Town, a photo I shot. I've got around about 100 people. 80 of them are engineers, so we are really a tech company. We do two things. We build a marketplace software called Cube, but we also build platform-independent software as a service products. Who else am I? I grew up in Germany. I'm sure you guys can pick that up. I've been a geek my whole life, so when I asked Midjourney, make a picture of me as a little boy, that came up. I'm also a Trekkie, of course. You're going to see that a few times in the slides. By the way, all imagery in my presentation is generated by Midjourney. I keep saying I'm a techie turned businessman, not so sure if I like it or not, but by now I take more care of the P&L than writing code. And yeah, I moved 18 years ago to Africa, and I'm happy ever after. What's the LLM again? We speak a lot about that. We speak a lot about AI, and let me give you my techies view. And there's the first cat. The cat keeps reappearing. So let me first ask, what is actually a cat? For us humans, that's really easy to answer, right? A cat is an animal, it's a furry thing. Some people love it, some people hate it. But if you ask a computer, what is a cat? It wasn't really easy until fairly recently. So in traditional programming, you as the engineer had to teach the machine what a cat is. So you had to start from scratch. There was no knowledge in the machine, and you had to sit angrily like the lady and code for 2 months to explain the machine what a cat is. That changed with the introduction of machine learning, where the machine became smarter. And if you look at these two things, is that a cat? No, that's a monkey. Remember with CAPTCHA how we trained the machine? What is a traffic light? What is a motorcycle? And so forth. That is basically how we trained the machine learning models what a cat is. And then suddenly the computer could look at a picture and say that's a cat and that is a dog. Now with LLMs, what we did is we gave the machine, we gave the model a whole library, but actually not just a library, but basically human knowledge, as in the internet, to feed. Took a little while to process, and suddenly you can ask, what is a cat? And the LLM is able to answer that. Because LLMs, they have the ability to perform tasks that weren't included in their training examples. That's quite exciting in itself. They can understand human language, and they can also converse like a human, so that makes it even more exciting. they've got a certain intelligence, and they are also able to generate new content. And I think that is what gets so many people excited at the moment. Just like me with my Midjourney images, I can hack in a few prompts, and it generates me a beautiful image. What I'm also excited about, and I don't think many people know that, you can also create music. So from Google DeepMind, you can Google that if you want to, there's a couple of amazing examples. Just an explanation. So I can give a input to the LLM, and it outputs a fully generated audio file. So let's listen to that. Okay. So what happens here is someone made a beatbox sound in the LLM, it got recorded, and output as a never heard before music file, right? Maybe more impressive is the next example. So that's the input from the keyboard, and just now the output. Beautiful, right? And it sounds maybe not very amazing, but think about that has been generated by a machine. That's unique. No one has played it on an instrument or on a computer. It's entirely computer generated. And it also gives you hope if you can't sing like me. I can't sing at all. Listen to the last one.
Na 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 na.
Beautiful, right? Come, let's give the machine a round of applause, yes. So suddenly we can all create music. It's quite amazing. Guys, what would you do with 1 million interns? But really, what would you do with 1 million interns? Because suddenly, you've got 1 million interns available. It sounds maybe a little bit scary, because even if we onboard 5 interns, it's lots and lots of work. But you have 1 million and more interns available to create content, to create video, to create whatever. You don't even have to worry about labor laws, because it's a machine, they work 24/7, and you've got 1 million people available. What would you do? You've got it. It's not fantasy, it's not the future. They are right here in the cloud. Okay, but let me talk about the AI-powered marketplace. That's what the presentation is all about. Of course, I had to ask GPT what AI-powered marketplace is. It's a digital platform that utilizes artificial intelligence, blah, blah, blah. Our view as Ringier is the following. And we heard it yesterday in a presentation before. We separate it in basically 3 layers. So the first one is the customer, our user-facing products. So really how the consumer interacts with your offering. Then we've got the back end, so what happens behind the scenes, the internal platform products, internal software tools. And then, of course, the foundation. We also spoke about that yesterday, how we increase the employee performance at the end of the day, and employee efficiency. By the way, almost a philosophical question. If your employees have suddenly 20% more time available, what are they going to do? Maybe you allow them to go to the beach with those 20% extra time, or are they going to work in the 20%? What are we as humans going to do with the time we gain back through the efficiency? Deep question, right? And to translate that into products, I want to show you 3 products we as Ringier have been working on. So that is really things that are live in production and not some fantasy products. Let's look first at the one that is customer facing. And we saw that from you, Simon, earlier, very similar product. I guess all of us in the property space looked at that before. It is Caprese. Why that name? Guys, don't fall off your chair. It's the chat-assisted property search engine. It's such a genius name, we had to trademark that. Jokes aside, there's no trademark, but please don't steal it. It's so good. The salad is also good. So what is Caprese? Again, I think we saw that earlier. So that is really a natural language-based search. What's quite interesting here, the first finding you can see, we launched that product in Poland as a small pilot. What's pretty interesting, the input text is English, but the output is in Polish. So in other words, you've got by default, without any additional work, you've got by default multi-language support. So yeah, what happens here, again, we've seen that before a couple of times over the last days. You type natural language search and you get your results. Again, we had an MVP of that. Our learnings, we had some paid ads, which we sent to Caprese. Around about 10% started a conversation. The other 90 didn't, so they didn't like it and dropped off. 90% got at least one recommended property. So the recommendation engine out of the box worked pretty well, but there wasn't many clicks out to listings because it was a separate product. So it wasn't integrated in our portal, but it was really more a standalone product. If you look how people interacted machines, and that is also what you said earlier, Simon, we need to, as consumers, retrain our behavior. How do we actually interact with that new offering? Because if basically no one asked a sentence, I want to find a two-bedroom apartment, blah, 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 but they engage in the old way. So how do we change that? And do we need to change it at all? And how long is it going to change, to take to change? Our next step is that we build it into the portal. That is our Romanian property asset, where we then, as you can see, further integrated into the platform. So I think that's one of the learnings. Again, if it's more like a standalone product, it's most likely not going to work out. But people want to move over to the old way. But if you give the user the ability to train the model and get better results, as you can see here, you can get thumbs up and down about the result. That is our expectation that that more people are going to use it. So that's Caprese, right? Next product, that is more for the techies. Do we have any techies here in the audience? Oh, just one or two, okay. So Nexus is an integration layer for your LLMs. All of you, because you're business people and not techies, you go back next week to your desk and then you're going to say, I learned so many things at Simon's conference, and I want our system to fetch every new listing, rewrite the title, check the description for grammar errors, remove all personal details of like contact information, and at the same time, look at the video and extract parameters from the video automatically. You can do that with AI. That's not too difficult, but the engineer is going to look like that. Why? Because you need to speak to all different models. So new listing, you need to talk to some API. To rewrite the title, GPT 3.5 Turbo is the best. For grammar, it's Llama. For the video, it's LangChain, and. So your poor developer is going to freak out, but not if you give the developer AI Nexus. Because again, AI Nexus is an abstraction layer, easily integratable, for you to, on the fly, switch out LLMs, but also to support your prompt engineering. So the following example is really just us playing with the platform. So what we want to do here on our media assets, there is a German article, I'm not sure if you can see that, but we're basically taking one of our articles, we ask GPT to rewrite it. I loved it, by the way. You're a journalist for a Swiss news site. Please think in English, but respond in German. Okay. So you basically take the article, rewrite it, but then with a different model, we wanted to give the article a emoji, because emojis convert pretty well. To do that for a programmer would take fairly long time. For you as a product manager, business owner, whatever you are, you can do that yourself. That's Nexus. So what happens, and that's a funny example, that was yesterday on Blick, which is the biggest newspaper in Switzerland. I'm not sure if you can read it, most likely not. But in Thailand, we Swiss people are the new foreigners creating trouble. So it really works. I've got a summary of the article, and I've got a emoji. So the capabilities of AI Nexus, maybe that's more techie stuff, but you've got API abstraction, you've got automated testing, you've got notifications, and. If you guys are keen to learn more about Nexus, you can scan Mr. Spock here, the QR code. It's just going to send the email to myself. Don't worry, we're not going to sell the data. So what we see here already with AI Nexus, we've got 85% time saving on prompt engineering. It's still difficult for people, so we could reduce the time dramatically, but of course also a cost saving and management at the same time. Last product, I've got 4 more minutes. This is our content distribution engine. That's a product I'm quite proud of. That is in production for tens of companies, creating lots and lots of data. So with the content distribution engine, you can automatically and in an intelligent manner select content, transform the content, and post it on multiple channels. You can take your own listing, articles, landing pages, whatever it is that you've got in your databases available. And again, you can push that out to 20 different channels. That is also, we heard it in the presentation just now. We call that approach distribution over destination. So also here in agreement with the first presentation from this morning, it is not about creating your own fenced wall in your platform and you try all traffic to go there, but our approach is distribute it out and try to play it on all type of channels. Okay, what does that mean? So again, you got your listings, articles, landing pages from your production data, but you can also integrate all type of other sources of data. That's your analytics, that's also your financial platforms, that's your marketing performance data, and. So lots of data sources you can integrate with. They then all end up in a data lake, so you just throw in all the data into the data lake, or more, that is what we do as the CDE. And then comes the interesting part, because you can add your own content selection strategy. What does that mean? That's maybe a pretty good example. So take the article that has the highest engagement on Facebook, or it's predicted to have the highest engagement on Facebook, which we haven't posted in the last 90 days. Other example. Give me all listings for customers with less than 4 leads per listing and is due to renew their subscription into the next 2 weeks. So that's the customer you want to keep, right? But that customer hasn't interacted with your platform at all. So you want to re-engage that customer. And we can do that automatically now. Or give me the category suburb combination with the highest Google Analytics page view in the last 14 days. So again, you can write these prompts and select the content like that. But of course, also here is AI built into the product. We have smart image cropping. What does that mean? If there is a house, but it's not centered, our AI model puts it nicely in the center. We've got LLM powered text rewriting and so forth. So then we take that content, and as I said earlier, we push it out to all type of channels. So as you can see here, these are all the sources that are integrated, but even more. There's, of course, your paid channels. There's your remarketing. You can push it on Facebook. You can push it on Instagram. And don't forget, the content is always created channel-specific. So in other words, if I interact with Instagram, my post and my picture is going to be very different to me sending it out via WhatsApp. All of that is automated. But even here, when it comes to search, your sitemaps, your RSS feeds, your news, blah, 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 all of that can be automated as well. So what have we seen with the CDE? And again, that thing is up and running in many, many businesses. First of all, clients are happy. If you look at the increase in sessions on social channels, it's between 30 and 50%. Out of the box, there's nothing else you need to do, but just by using the CDE. But maybe more interesting, because it is a tremendous cost saving, the reduction in time for your marketing team is 94%. And that's not any sales figures, made up figures, but that is actually real figures which we internally measured. If you are keen on the CDE, scan Mr. Spock again and we can talk about it. And when I asked GPT I'm going to present in Bangkok, there's going to be many people in the audience, how do I round off my presentation? It said, Niels, you have to use a site that like always leaves people in a good mood, so to speak. So I used from Sam Altman, and he said, AI will probably most likely lead to the end of the world, but in the meantime, there'll be great companies. So let's build those companies before we all die. Thank you.
Niels, thank you for that, I think, even though it's all going to end, so, let's enjoy it. Questions. What would be the first thing you would do if you had 1 million interns?
They must bring me coffee every morning at 8 o'clock.
That's a lot of coffee. Okay, what does the soon-to-be-released video generation tool look like, and how does it work?
So we can also, one of the channels that wasn't listed, one of the channels is, of course, TikTok, because TikTok is so important, especially for the younger generation. So what we can do, we can automatically generate those like 10, 15, 20-second clips. Again, it's pretty early stage. I think we also chatted about that yesterday at the panel. But the idea is really, again, you give it a prompt from your content, and then you generate those videos and you push it out on TikTok and the likes.
So if you had a crystal ball and you were to look forward 10 years, how does this industry look?
Yeah. The sad answer, and I think truth, is not all that different. I don't have any hair when I stand here. Maybe you have white hair. But we still talk about the same things. We still generate our cash. I really don't believe it's going to change fundamentally. But yeah, it's still an exciting new world.
Okay. Do you think there's a chance that we will, so if you don't think it's going to change fundamentally, it'll still be the same main brands doing the people are relating to, still presenting listings in a similar way, or do you think there'll be just lots of micro changes?
Yeah, good question. Look, I'm sure there's going to be, just like in the last industry changes, there's going to be new big companies. But what I'm always a bit sad about, just like what Microsoft does now with all the M&A, I mean, it's beautiful what they do, but they snatched up OpenAI, basically. They snatched up that French AI company and so forth. So I think the merger and acquisitions of these brands is going to be huge. So they're still going to be around, but again, yeah, maybe 2, 3 big new players.
Right, and so you think there's a chance that as, just as much as Microsoft, for example, is investing into the industry, it's also potentially stifling the opportunity?
I believe so. And maybe also our real estate brands, right? That's, do we even want to innovate? And if yes, how easy? Isn't it, what you had earlier, isn't it easy to sit on the big chair and just collect the money for another 10 years?
Yeah. No. So your crystal ball projection is that it's sort of going to be the same game. We're probably going to search similar ways. Yes, there'll be some enhancements. There'll be some better interaction with the younger generation around the TikToks of the world or whatever comes next and so on. But it's still fundamentally the same game.
Yeah. I believe cost for tech is going to change. At the moment, you would typically see most of your costs sitting on salaries because engineers are expensive. I think that is going to shift away from salaries, which is more automated, to way more hosting and computing power because that is expensive. It's really expensive at the moment. That's also something to think about. At the moment, the return on invest is maybe not necessarily there if you use these LLMs heavily because, again, it becomes really expensive.
Okay. My last question is how the ChatGPTs of the world are there, right? And it's how did you go about making sure that you incorporated interaction with a ChatGPT into your everyday life versus it's, oh yeah, I should, it's sort of an afterthought.
Yeah. So we've got different initiatives in the company. I really believe there's a German saying, sometimes you need to force people to their luck. So at my company, I introduced a month of AI, and we all had to interact with one AI tool every day. So I called it AI once a day. And we had to report back. And again, you're basically forced to use these tools, and then you realize how great they are.
Right. So you stimulate awareness with a combination of a carrot and a stick in the process, because the reporting back is the stick, right? Because if you turn up and say, oh, I didn't use it, everyone's going to look at you and go, come on. Right?
Sure.
And then eventually it becomes part of everyday habit, because it's about creating new habits along the way.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Niels, thank you very much. I love
Super.
what you guys are doing, and it's
Thank
always
you.
fascinating.
Sure.
Great.
Thank
Thank you very much.